Our Chicago Bulls have been facing a lot of backlash from some of us, some of our fans, and even some media outlets who are saying that the Bulls will not be very good this upcoming season, and rightfully so. But the question for today is, are the Chicago Bulls being disrespected, or do they deserve all of the negativity that's surrounding their team? Y'all already know I'm going to talk about it, but you got to hit a music first.
Cognac gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on another episode of Shy Boys Podcast. We got my man C-Dub handling some business, so I went ahead and drop some content for y'all today. So if you like what you're listening to today, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and shake the notification bell if you like what you're listening to today. Now, look, are the Chicago Bulls being disrespected, or are they getting what they deserve? Let's go ahead and break it down. We already looked at last season as a complete letdown, man. It was just not good. We had the life and the anticipation that Lonzo Ball was going to come back through that door and we was going to be right back as that, that one seed that we once were during that 35 game stretch the year prior to last year. But we had got a season full of lackluster performances, a stagnant offense with some good defense, and not very good production from our players and our head coach, and a bunch of gibberish that was coming down from our front office per se. Now, the reason I had to go ahead and pose this question is simply because if you look around and you go ahead and you're diving into the news and you're trying to find something out, see what the Bulls are doing, what are they getting into, you run into some of the major outlets who are talking about the NBA. And when they mention the Bulls, has been a lot of things to where you be like, you can't show much emotion or pretty much say that these media outlets are tripping. And sometimes you just kind of look at it like, well, after last season, you know what I'm saying, fighting for a play-in spot, then getting in a play-in, winning one game, and the way that the second game ended, which in my opinion was, you know what I'm saying, the epitome of that entire season, the way that second play-in game ended, you really just got to go ahead and just be like, man, they might have a point. But you know what I'm saying? As Bulls fans, we are wishful thinkers when it comes to certain things, especially when you have the talent on the team that you believe at least can make a little bit of noise. You ain't going to go out here and you ain't going to shock the world and just, be granted or making a ruckus, but you might hear a little ding. You know what I'm saying? Something to get your attention, but nothing that's going to make you back away from it or make you run towards it per se. You know what I'm saying? But when we look at some of these media outlets like a Sports Illustrator or Bleacher Report, some might question, and that's why I'm posing it. Are the Chicago Bulls being disrespected? Simply because Sports Illustrated predicted that the Chicago Bulls will win 37 games this upcoming season. And then there was another fella, a part of the same media outlet company in Sports Illustrated, who pretty much said that they would go 41-41, and even had a statement about the Chicago Bulls, pretty much saying the Chicago Bulls will be part of an elusive fraternity where we're hereby referring to as the 500 group. And in that group, along with the Chicago Bulls, he had the Atlanta Hawks, the Brooklyn Nets, etc., who he believes will all still be ranging around this average overall record going into next season. Now, look, the Chicago Bulls, we know they finished terribly. The ending was much more better than the start, but if you look at the season in its totality, it was a letdown, as I previously mentioned. You know what I'm saying? The Chicago Bulls went 40-42 last season, and to come out and hear some of these guys say that they're gonna lose 4 more games than they won last season, or win one more game than they did last season, one has to kind of question and like, man, are we really have these guys really given up on the Chicago Bulls? Because, you know what I'm saying, most of us, including myself sometime, I could be a bit biased because I'm a hometown guy from Chicago, born and raised there. And then you want to see the teams that you root for from your hometown do well. But the problem is, it's just been a lot of turmoil within a lot of organizations within the great city of Chicago, man. So it's just tough. And I understand it to a certain extent. Now, when we talk about where these guys are ranking the Chicago Bulls, now that's where the problem is. You know what I'm saying? According to ESPN, going into the season, they have the Bulls ranked 22nd in the league, with Indiana, Brooklyn, and Utah as some of the names that they have placed before the Chicago Bulls. And it got just a smidge worse with Bleacher Report. They had the Chicago Bulls ranked 23rd. Like, I understand it. I don't expect the Chicago Bulls to even be at the 15 mark. It's 30 teams in the NBA. I don't expect them to be at 15, but to have Indiana, Brooklyn, and Utah penciled in as being better than the Chicago Bulls, that's up for discussion for me. I will have to have a discussion with these type of people or with certain fans on why they believe Indiana, Brooklyn, and Utah will be better than the Chicago Bulls. Now, I understand that Indiana, young up-and-coming team, a lot of guys like Tyrese Halliburton, not mad at that. You like Buddy Hield. They got some good players over there. Then they look at Brooklyn, and when you look at Brooklyn, you look at Mikal Bridges, you got Cam Thomas, you're hoping that Ben Simmons can come back and get his mental health together and be able to be that all-star type of player that he once was. And then you look at Utah and you say, hey, Larry Marketing took a huge step forward. These guys over there with Danny Ainge, they're building something out. So when you look at all these teams, yes, there is a lot of good, but in comparison to what, especially for Utah being in the Western Conference, I don't know if they're going to be better than the Chicago Bulls. They can be. I just don't know. And then when we talk about Indiana and Brooklyn, you say, hey, yes, they have a lot of young, good talent, but they don't have a talented core of three players like the Chicago Bulls, hence why it has to be up for discussion. You know what I'm saying? We don't know how the season is going to play out, but we can have the discussion before the season starts to be like, hey, why do you feel X, Y, and Z, well, these teams here will be better than the Chicago Bulls? It's a bit questionable for me. And I think it's on the line of disrespect for me, but I understand it. And my thoughts are the Bulls are getting exactly what the hell they deserve. They're getting what they deserve. They are getting what they deserve. Simply because if you're looking at all the different things that have transpired in the last two seasons, you say, number one, our front office sat on their hands and pretty much didn't really do anything from the year Lonzo went down to year two. They pretty much ran everything back. So that's a fault on the front office. Then you look at this past season, you look at Zach LaVine as being, in my opinion, the best player on the team, not really take command of the team until the second half when the Chicago Bulls went like 13-9 or something like that and fought for a play-in spot. And he completely let us down. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that from that perspective. And in that first season where Lonzo was playing, the Chicago Bulls, they sucked against the top teams. And last year, they were a bit better, but they couldn't win against the weaker teams. Or when they had games that were sealed, they let them go. Or you had to question, what the hell are we doing on certain nights? We had to question the head coach. We had to question the coaching staff. Are you developing players? Billy Donovan. These guys are killing us on the boards. Why is Andre Drummond still on the bench? Or Billy Donovan. Patrick Williams has it going within the first quarter. Why did you take him out? Let him cook. Or Kobe White. He's performing well in this fourth quarter. I understand you love some of your guys that you want to play in there. I mean, that you want to play. But if the guy has the hot hand, why are you icing your own player? So it's a lot of things that go within this discussion. So I'd be like, man, the Chicago Bulls. Some might feel they are being disrespected, but they are. If two things can be true, they are getting all the criticism that they deserve. They are getting the criticism that they deserve. I got 2 games from the 2 previous seasons that should make sense to most people who follow the Chicago Bulls on a daily, like us here on Shy Bulls podcast. In year 1, when Lonzo Ball, y'all remember the pick and roll game? It was like January around that time, and Luka Doncic, the entire game, they just ran pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll, to the point that I had to come out with a song. You know what I'm saying? Pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. Because the Bulls had no answers. And the second half of that season, we were terrible. We limped into the playoffs and only won 1 game. Boom. This past season, what about the game against the Minnesota Timberwolves? No Cat Williams, other players out, and the Chicago Bulls come out as flat as the earth that Kyrie believes in and laid a complete egg. It was a complete disaster. The whole entire first half of the season was a complete disaster. They hung on to some things, but it was terrible. It wasn't giving a team that wanted to win games until Patrick Beverley walked into that door. It shouldn't have taken Patrick Beverley to walk through that door to make people feel like that the Bulls are actually playing for something. They did a lot of lip service. They did a lot of talking. We even heard stories coming out that the guys are mad at Zach LaVine and his defensive effort. Then you're seeing Goran Dragic come in and become a starter over your young guy and Ayo Dosunmu, and that was a terrible decision. You seen Patrick Williams get benched twice in 1 season, and then some way, somehow, it looked as if he was gaining more confidence, and they still didn't, work with him so he can be the player we all want him to be. And some people have given up on him. I have not, but some people have given up on Patrick Williams, and I understand it. You know what I'm saying? So that's my whole theory on all of this. It's just so many bad things that you can just go ahead and be like, damn, they did do this last year. You know what I'm saying? Versus the good things that they did last year. You know what I mean? Like, some good things you have to pick through your brain to figure it out. You might be like, damn, they did finally beat the 76ers. Damn, they did win 1 play-in game. Damn, they was playing a good play-in game in the second game against the Miami Heat. But in the last 5 minutes of the game, they blew it. They choked. So is it really that good? Or you might say, hey, in the last season, the Chicago Bulls ended the season on a positive note. Okay, let's talk about the year prior. Then we're going to say, hey, the first 35 games, the Chicago Bulls was the number 1 seed. And then you can rebuttal that by saying, bro, who did they beat? Because they wasn't beating the good teams. So that's why it's just like the Chicago Bulls are getting exactly what they deserve from me, man. They are getting exactly what they deserve, simply because they have not been consistent. You've seen a head coach in Billy Donovan come out and trot out a random offense that is clearly not the best decision from the helm. He needs to be better. This team needs to be better. So y'all go ahead, man. We're gonna continue to root for him, but they gotta be more consistent. And this is the season to get it done. Or I'm telling y'all right now, the blow it up statements and comments that's going to be coming from fans or supporters of the Chicago Bulls is going to get louder and louder and louder, because what's the point of keep running this quarterback if we just going to, keep going down in horrible fashion? It's like we stuck in mud. But we'll see. They added some additions, and we'll see what happens from there. We'll see. You heading into the regular season for sure. But that's it for me today, man. Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell. Also, if you want to go ahead and call in and give your thoughts on any of the takes that we talked about previously, or give your own take on how you feeling before we going into the season, call in or send a text message, 773-242-9219. It's another episode of Shy Boys Podcast. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac. Gang.